Anyway, so I'm here with Michael and Natasha Dry, and what just happened the other day? I was listening to a video, and Michael, from what I understood, you were thrown in jail.
Yes.
What happened with that?
Well, I went to the DMV to get my license renewed and find out what, get that. And then when we got done with that, we was on our way out, and then a DPS officer came over and said, "Hey, I need to speak to you." So he took us in the back of the DPS and said I had a warrant.
Okay.
And he said it was for child support.
So wait a minute. You're okay. So you're telling me you got your driver's license, or did you say vehicle registration?
No, just regular driver's license renewed.
You were getting your driver's license renewed.
Yeah.
And DPS came to.
They just came up behind him. I mean, the guy came up and said, I was sitting in the back with the girls right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And the officer came up, was standing behind him. And I thought, he had a paper in his hand. I thought maybe he was going to hand it to the lady he was talking to. And Michael stood up and went to go walk off, and he said, "Mr. Dry, I need to talk to you." And so, of course, I stood up too. I'm wondering what's going on, you know. And they took us off in the room, and he said, "Oh, you have your kids with you?" Well, yeah, you know. And he said, "Well, I'm going to have y'all wait right here." And he took, I mean, he was nice. The officer was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he really was. He wasn't aggressive or mean or anything like that. And, you know, he took Michael to the back room, and we had to stay out front, you know.
So what happened when you were back there, Michael?
Well, when we went back there, he said that I had a warrant for my arrest for non-payment of child support.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, "Well, I don't know why, because, you know, they take my child support out of my check every 2 weeks."
Okay.
And so he, he went over to the computer and ran it again to make sure it was a good warrant. And then he came back and said it was a good warrant and everything. Says, I'm going to have to place you under arrest,
Under arrest?
Yeah. And he called me back there to tell me, and he let me take the stuff off of my husband. You know, he had all his stuff from work, because he'd come home from work, and we went over there, and he pulled all the stuff out of his pocket. He let him give me everything. He was explaining to me. I said, "Why is this going on?" I pulled everything up on my phone, because we constantly are checking to make sure it goes from his check to the Attorney General. You know, we constantly track that.
So this has been going, how long have you been paying child support in this way?
Since 2000.
Since 2000.
Look, now, when I first met him, he wasn't paying child support. The order went into effect in 2001.
So when did you first meet him then?
In 2003.
So you met him in 2003. So at the beginning,
In 2004, he wasn't paying.
Okay.
When I met him, he went to court, and the judge said, "You have to pay." He didn't know, because he wasn't getting to see his daughter. He thought he didn't have to pay child support.
Right.
You know, common misconception. I don't get to see my kid. I'm not paying you any money.
Right.
Well, the judge told him 2004, "You have to pay."
So the judge will tell you have to pay, but the judge will not
They won't entertain
tell the other person that
visitation.
says you have to see your children.
No, in fact, at that court date, she mentioned here at Van Zandt County, she said in front of the judge, "Well, there's an open CPS case for him molesting his daughter." That was not true. That case had been closed for over a year.
So
the judge heard it.
So now you're going back to a CPS case. Now, I hate to ask this question because it's embarrassing as can be to begin with.
We'll talk about
Was there any validity to the charge?
Nope. They investigated it. I have the paperwork in there. We got a copy, because when I met him, I said, "Get a copy of those records. You must have those on file."
So
They closed the case.
So in other words, she made a false allegation.
Yep.
And that was was that to actually get custody of is it a daughter, son?
Yeah, daughter.
Okay.
That was to prevent him she was mad at him.
The ex-wife?
Yep. It came down to, well, you tell the story. What happened? She came to live with him after she divorced him. She came back to live with him.
Okay, this is getting. Anyway, we'll get back to the driver license thing in a minute. But for the background, tell me what happened here.
So, she came to me and said that she didn't have a place to go, and I wasn't going to leave my daughter out on the street. So I told her, I said, "Well, y'all can stay here. I'll sleep on the couch. Y'all can sleep in the bed, and
And how long had you been divorced at that time?
A little over a year.
Now, did you file for divorce against her, or did she file for divorce against you?
She filed for divorce against me.
And then did she? So she was just single? Did she meet somebody in the interim there? I mean.
No, she was actually with somebody at that time, and I guess they were having problems.
She was married.
Yeah, she was married to the guy.
at the time, and they were having problems.
So that she's married to the guy, she's having problems, comes to you because she doesn't want to live on the street, and you let.
She lived in she lived in Athens with her husband.
Okay.
He lived in Canton. Her parents live in Grand Saline. She had her grandparents that live in Wills Point. It's not
Okay.
like she couldn't go to somebody.
But
she
went-
said she was going to have to live in her car
Okay.
with the daughter.
But-
And he said, no, you're not going to live in your car with our daughter.
Yeah. So basically, you did this for your daughter.
Yes.
Okay. And then this was what year? About 2003, 2001, 2002.
Early 2003, just before he and I met.
Okay. And then when did you get accused of the CPS stuff?
He came home late from work one night.
And this was after this had already happened with.
While she was living with him. This was before CPS got involved.
Oh, good grief.
She
Okay.
got mad because he came home late from work.
She's not even married to you. She divorced you, and she's mad because you come home late when you're letting her.
And didn't
Okay.
call.
Okay. This
And
is.
the next day, was the next day?
It was well, it wasn't the next day. It was the next day. She ended up going to her grandma's house,
Okay.
and then
You babysat Toby, right?
yeah, I babysat Toby.
While she
me
had
and
to
my,
work.
Yeah, me and my brother, because me and my brother lived together at the time.
Right.
You know,
So I'm guessing that Toby's your daughter,
yes,
and she was probably what, about 2, 3 years old?
she
Two.
was 2.
Okay. So I mean, it makes sense then to say that's why you had her staying with you, because you don't want to see your young daughter staying out in the street someplace or living in a car. But then when did this accusation of molestation take place?
According to the CPS record, she claimed that the daycare provider said that Toby had been acting out sexually, and that she had claimed that Uncle D and Daddy showed her how to hump or something like that, or she claimed that she was sticking objects in her private area, and that Daddy and Uncle D did it. And so she called Michael and said, we need to go to the doctor. And Michael said, okay. So she came over to his house, and they went to go to the doctor, and when they got outside, her grandparents showed up. What
So-
exactly happened there? Because there was also an attack.
It's been so long ago, I can't hardly remember most of it.
She had Toby in her arms
Yeah,
or something.
she had Toby. Yeah, she had Toby in her arms, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but I know her grandfather lunged at me and grabbed me around the neck, and then we ended up in a scuffle.
Okay.
You know, and then, I told, after the scuffle happened, I told him, he needs to get off. He needs to get off the property and get out of here.
Right. Well, you could understand if the things were true that you could understand his reaction,
Yeah.
but at the same time, if you're being falsely accused, we could understand your reaction
And
too.
at that point, he didn't even know he had been falsely accused until later on. CPS had contacted him and said this is what's going on.
Okay.
According to the CPS records, they interviewed all these people. Daycare provider never made that claim. Mom couldn't keep her
Why
story
am I
straight.
so surprised?
Yeah. Mom couldn't keep her story straight. They asked her mother about the whole situation. She said, I don't believe anything happened, that Dad didn't do anything. My daughter's known, the mom, is known for making up stories to get attention and to get her way, and we're going to seek her help out at the Entry Center, which is, a place where they give psychological help for free
Yeah.
or at a discounted rate. That her dad, who passed away a couple of years ago, he even said she lies all the time. This is how she does. When she's not getting attention, she lies.
She being your
The mother.
ex-wife.
Yeah, the ex-wife.
Okay.
And they didn't, her parents, the ex-wife's parents, did not believe that anything had happened to her. They said, he's a good dad. I don't believe Mr. Dry did anything wrong.
Yeah.
CPS ran the whole investigation. The doctor examined her, found some rashes, but Toby had spent 2 years, well, almost 2 years, about a year, of having chronic yeast infections due to antibiotic usage for chronic ear infections. She had tubes put in her ears.
Right.
Had a lot of it, but hymen was intact, no other signs of sexual abuse, okay? The grandmother said the humping that Mom was referring to was not a humping thing, it was she rocked herself to sleep. Okay, so CPS said no evidence of abuse, close the case. Not possible, not let's keep it open, completely close the case. No evidence of abuse found, closed, done.
Yeah.
6 months later, she tried to open the case again because she was fixing to turn 3 and he was going to start having every other weekends. She
Okay.
opened the case again, said, I'm afraid for her safety because he's going to get every other weekend and he has a history of abusing her, sexually abusing her.
Wow.
They closed the case immediately because she couldn't keep her story straight. I
Wow.
mean, immediately closed it within like less than a month. They
So
closed
did
it.
you? Is that the last time you dealt with CPS or?
No.
Oh,